Good morning, good afternoon, ladies. I am back again for another week of our Lunch and Learn episodes, where each week we discuss topics to elevate your mindset, be at your best, and radically expand your life and business. And I am so excited to be here today because this little chat that we're going to have with Beth Yarzab about secrets to building strength and empowerment is something that I've been thinking about for a while. And then Beth just re-showed up in our world, and the gods of LinkedIn and internet and connectivity brought us back together. And so we are going to be talking about physical health, mental health, and really some of the changes that happen to women as we cross, like, let's say the 40-year mark. It's a pivotal time for so many of us, and so often when we get to this point of what we consider midlife, it's like, oh, downhill from here. But we are going to really talk about how you can absolutely thrive and show up even better than you ever have before. So Beth is she's got more than 15 years of experience in the fitness industry. She is a personal trainer and also works with fitness education companies to develop continuing education program for fit pros. And so she's going to talk a little bit more about her journey, but this is Beth Yarzab. I've known her for many years. Love her to death. So thank you so much for being here, Beth.
Thank you for having me. This is my community. I love the Abundance Accelerator and just the Abundance Academy, everything you do, Larissa. So I'm excited to be here and chat with you always.
Beautiful. So we're talking about strength and empowerment. And I know you've had a really vast journey. You've had a big journey along the past few years. So can you maybe just tell us a little bit about where you got started and how you got to this point of even working in the area of health, fitness, and well-being?
Sure thing. So much of my journey revolves around my kids, actually, and I think that's pretty common for a lot of women our age. And my twins were born, and I was home with them after working in corporate HR for a number of years and started my own business in the areas of career and fitness coaching for mothers. So I worked very closely with mothers for a long time, helping them reinvent their careers, helping them reinvent their health and fitness journey at that stage of life. And through that, did a lot of different aspects of that business, running events and retreats and doing online training and in-person group training and personal training, all the things, and helping moms with resumes and interview prep and all the kind of career personal development stuff. And my kids got older and they didn't need mommy as much anymore. And I reinvented my career in fitness education. So I actually helped career development for Fit Pro specifically through continuing education. And I joined CanFit Pro, which is Canada's largest fitness certification company. And I was a curriculum developer. So I worked on the personal training specialist certification for about 3.5 years. And then just recently I moved to another company called Muscle Intelligence, where I do a similar type of work. So I always have kind of the adult education, career development piece in the background. And now my kids are kind of in another stage of life, which means I'm in another stage of life.
Yeah.
My daughters, I have twins, they just graduated high school. And I am feeling very much an identity crisis, to be honest, with this like empty nest syndrome. And I've been doing a lot of work, internal work, and working with you is part of that process to just help find the joy, the spark in life where your kids don't need you as much anymore. And that was a big part of my identity. And throughout this, I've had my own different aspects of fitness that I absolutely love. And I love working with women through all these stages as a coach. But yeah, really, like if anyone out there feels like, your identity as a woman or as a person is tied to your children and the stages that they're at, I can absolutely relate because it's a bit of a roller coaster. They'll always need me, but the amounts that they need me are very different these days.
And probably the aspects they need you in, right? Like they need you for this, they need you for this. They're always going to require your presence. However, it changes. And I remember, I feel like the first year or two of my son's life really defines parenthood, because every 4 months or so at that stage, things change. And it's like, you finally get a sleep routine, you finally get a feeding routine, you finally get this routine, you finally figure them out. And as soon as you figure them out, they change. And as kids get older, those time gaps get a little longer, right? It's not every 4 months. Maybe it's every year or 2 years or every season. But there, as soon as I feel, and even now with my son, and I'm sure you've got an element with your girls, as soon as you figure them out, you've got the change. And now you've got a really big change because they're gone, and they don't need you as much on a day-to-day basis, like physically, like drive me here, do this for me, make me breakfast and lunch and dinner and my laundry. However, there is definitely an emotional level of support that is required. And so so often we can take this on as mothers and as parents. Now, one of the things that we were talking about is you've always, you said, I've been a cardio junkie most of my fitness career. And then recently I've started lifting. So I don't know if you guys know, but Beth, she lifts big, heavy stuff. She's finally gotten into competitive lifting. And I think there's been a lot of talk about lifting in the world of health and well-being, especially for women over 40. I mean, I had this conversation with you, but I've heard it sprinkled around in the industry for probably a couple years now. It's become a really big thing. Can you explain why lifting is so important for women over 40? And then maybe we'll tie it back to this whole parental emotional and empowerment thing after that. But let's go to the physical side. Like, why physically is it important for us to lift?
For sure. So as we get into perimenopause, which is those years before we stop having a period, our hormone levels fluctuate a lot and we see estrogen dropping off. And lifting heavy is a way that we can create kind of like what estrogen used to do for us in terms of creating strength and power and building strength. And so we need an external stimulus like lifting heavy things to create that strength even more now because our estrogen is lowering. And at this time of life, the number one symptom of perimenopause is anxiety and feeling things like panic attacks, foggy brain, and unsure of yourself from a mental health perspective. And then that's again because of these fluctuating hormones, and it hits women. We all have our own experiences with it, but it's very challenging for many of us. Lifting heavy helps kind of clear the cobwebs mentally. It helps with cognitive abilities and longevity because we are learning how to hold our body in particular positions to create stability, to generate mobility, to get into different shapes, whether it's a squat, a deeper squat, a lunge, a push, a pull, a hip hinge like an RDL, and all of those aspects of movement are skill based. As you know, being from a Pilates background, there's so much skill built into movement. And when we get better and better at those skills, we get higher and higher output. So some of our exercises are, more skill based, but then when we move them into that kind of output deliverable, we can lift really heavy, and those movements become ingrained because we've cleared the pathways. We've developed stronger neural pathways, and that's that cognitive piece, that mind to muscle connection, which is so good for cognitive ability long-term and just overall longevity. So we're able to have, at this time of life, feeling badass, lifting heavy weights and being good at that because we've put in the reps, lots and lots of practice. But then long-term over the upcoming decades, we have better cognitive ability, less risk of dementia and Alzheimer's, those kinds of things, being able to move our bodies and do pretty much anything we want to do without pain, and have the ability to go out skating, to go out hiking, to go kayaking. I was just talking to a client this morning, and those are her goals. She's going to be 50. She's like, I just want to be able to do the things I want to be able to do. But we have to keep our brain sharp and we have to keep our muscles strong. And so that's like the number one thing that will help women long term. And at this stage and onwards is lifting heavy. And that doesn't mean going to fatigue. We never have to go to complete exhaustion of an exercise. We always want to keep 1 to 2 reps in reserve. So that means we might be lifting more sets, heavier weights, but few repetitions and having more rest in between. We're really just looking for that central nervous response, central nervous system response, so that we can create those gains in muscle and mental strength.
I love that, Beth. So essentially, lifting heavy helps with obviously physical conditioning, but also neurological conditioning. So you can keep your mental health sharp. And I love that you touched on the importance of building new neural pathways. Whenever you build any skill, your brain goes ding, ding, ding. I have some new skills. Ding, ding, ding. I'm learning something. I am young. I'm fresh. I'm invigorated. That obviously affects your hormonal health, right? From a hormonal perspective, I don't know if balancing hormones is the most effective word, but let's say it's a good thing for hormonal health. And overall, that will help you deal with any changes you're encountering, whether it's, like you said, empty nesting, whether it's retirement, whether it's changing careers. I find it at like over 40, this is when women really go, am I really supposed to be here? Or there's a huge need to go truly pursue passions, whether it's recreationally or doing a 360 with your career. But if you don't have the support within and on the outside of your body and your muscles, it's going to be a really difficult thing to do. And so I love that you brought those benefits into it, because I think we often think of exercising as just working out. Oh, I need to exercise to look good. I need to exercise to fit in those jeans. I need to exercise to have a bikini body. And I also know you've had a really big journey with this, and your practice is totally about building strength. And if you get a nice physical result out of it, great. But can you touch on the difference in moving for you and moving to become strong, like mentally and physically, versus just working out so you look cute in an outfit, and that societal pressure that comes with that?
For sure. For me anyway, and for many of my clients, working out for aesthetics is pretty surface, but working out for that deeper reason of like, I want to be able to do anything I choose in the future. I want to be there for my family. I want to enjoy, like have like a vibrancy, have energy. And at this time of life, through perimenopause and menopause, a lot of us suffer with low energy and fatigue, mood fluctuations, all of those things. So having strength training to help regulate that and feel strong from within, and then it shows up on the outside. For example, a client just said to me this morning, I had to help my dad move a compressor into the shed at the cottage, and I just like picked it up, no problem. Another client had to move a ladder and had to like, leverage it and move it down. It wasn't heavy, but it was like long lever. So it was really, she really had to control it in her shoulders. And previously, just grabbing a cup out of a high cupboard put her shoulder out. So she's developed the tolerance in her joints to take any kind of stress, like to take those kinds of daily task stresses, so that you don't get injured just doing whatever. And that kind of like wanting to look good, that comes from within. Like, and with my own, for at least for me, my body image journey has been challenging. I was diagnosed with an eating disorder. I was really hit hard when my twins were born, and then I kind of hid it for many, many years, and finally did a lot of work with psychologists to help me through binge eating disorder. And a lot of, working in the fitness industry was tied up in that, because I felt like I had to, quote, look the part and all of that. And a lot of fit pros struggle with that. And just a lot of people struggle with that and disordered eating, all for the pursuit of looking like something that is set for us by society, which is not necessarily a normal look for everybody generally, because body diversity is a good thing. We want, we have a lot of different body types, just like we have, the environment outside has a lot of diversity, biodiversity. We want, to really own our shape and feel good in our shape. So when you can do things instead of look like a certain way, and you can do the things that make you feel strong and empowered, it is a huge boost for your self-esteem. And this, Larissa, is why I love powerlifting. And not everybody has to be a competitive powerlifter, but when you go to those competitions, there are people of all shapes, and there's different weight categories, and seeing people in larger bodies get super deep in their squats and lift heavy, heavy barbells is like, it's like, woo, that's amazing, because look at what their bodies can do. And, again, all bodies are good bodies, and we can be healthy in a large body and unhealthy in a smaller body. It all goes back to habits and the behaviors that we have consistently day in and day out. And this is what you teach in terms of doing the basics, always doing your best at the basics and habit formation. So, there's a lot there to unpack in terms of just body image, habits, body diversity. But it all comes back to, like, when you lift heavy, always keeping a couple of reps in reserve. When you lift heavy, you build that powerhouse from within, and then you just sparkle.
Let's talk about consistency. So one of the things that I started doing 2.5 years ago is morning calls. Happened by accident, but I told my clients to be consistent, and 2 of them were. And then I said, okay, guys, I'll join me at 6:30 a.m. And I think at first they came out of guilt, because they're like, if you're getting up at 6:30 for us, we better show up. But the thing is, they didn't. Within that month, we had built consistency for them, because all they had to do is click the join now button. And it was really simple. It was really straightforward. But what I realized is it gave them consistency, and it gave me a new level of consistency to keep going. So now we have amazing morning calls. That's what you were referring to. And I know you've joined our morning calls because you're like, I tried my own consistency for that every area of mindset. It wasn't the same. You know the skills, you're smart, you've studied, but it wasn't the same as being a part of something where you didn't have to do all the thinking. So let's tie this back to health and well-being. You're not going to get strong if you're not consistent. You might build some strength, but you're not going to build the strength you need. It's not a one and done. This is something that has to be built over time, has to be done gradually. It needs consistency, whether that's, would you say consistency for this is daily? Would it be 2 times, 3 times a week? Like, what do you define as a healthy level of consistency? And is there some kind of like magic recipe you would recommend people consider to truly build strength over 40?
For sure. So 3 times a week resistance training, ideally full body, and you're doing that on alternating days, so you don't have 2 days back to back. Workouts could take 45 to 60 minutes. You don't necessarily need to be in a gym. Most of my clients work out from home with body weight exercises, bands, dumbbells. A few of them have a bench, which really opens up the amount of exercises you can do, but not required. So 3 days a week of resistance training, full body workouts. And then on the other days, doing what we call recovery cardio. So zone 2 cardio, that kind of very easy, low intensity cardio where you're very easily able to talk to somebody. If you're walking with them, it's like walking. Low intensity biking is the Zumba dance class. Like, you're going to feel hot and your heart rate's going to increase, but it's not high intensity. The high intensity we want to save for those resistance training days, and then low intensity on those, 2 to 3 other days where you're doing 30, 40, 60 minutes of that zone 2 cardio. We can start to add in on those resistance training days, maybe 4 or 5 minutes at the end of high intensity interval training. That's like hard. What I used to think was HIIT was really not HIIT. It was moderate intensity. And when, like doing jumping jacks for 20 seconds and doing burpees for 20 seconds, and I got my heart rate up and I felt like I was kind of gassed at the end. But because I was able to sustain that for 45, 60 minutes in a class, it wasn't true high intensity. It was moderate. And at that stage of life, when you're in perimenopause, when you're dealing with like spikes of cortisol and lowering estrogen and all the hormonal fluctuations, it's better to stay in that lower intensity zone 2 for recovery and building cardiovascular health. and then add that high intensity, like all out sprints, 30 seconds to 2 minutes recovery time, but not doing more than 4 to 5 minutes after that heavy resistance training. And so that's something you want to build up to. I wouldn't start a client out with that right away. We do 2 to 3 months of what we call foundations programming, where we're building the foundation of all the strength gains that are to come and all the health gains that are to come. But we need to focus on putting your body into structural balance, building the skills of the exercise, and just building the consistency. So something is better than nothing. If you can only do 20 minutes of resistance training, do those compound movements, squats, lunges, push-ups, rows, RDLs like hip hinges. Do those big compound movements because they are skill-based, because they do have they use a lot of muscle, so there's metabolic boost there. So that would be my recommendation, is 3 to 4 times a week, full body, 45 to 60 minutes if you can manage it. If you can't, then we can go to, do something. Just do something and do it consistently, so that even on your worst day, there's something that you feel like you have control of when it comes to investing in your health.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things that happened during the pandemic, I think one beautiful opportunity that came as a result is people started working out at home and people started finding new ways to do that. And when you were sharing some of the ways that you train your clients, I thought it was just like, oh, you're giving them a little workout while you work out with them. And you have some different ways that you've started doing virtual training sessions with clients. Can you maybe explain what that looks like? Because I came from a fitness and health background, and this was really innovative and really constructive for me. And like, tell us about some of the results you're getting with clients and why they're actually working.
For sure. And I will say there is really nothing like an in-person coach,
Yeah.
because that in-person coach can be hands-on if you're comfortable and you give them permission to adjust your body in the way that is optimal for you in terms of setting up. They can cue you right there in the moment. Virtual coaching has been very successful for my clients, the handful of clients that I've had, where I have them do the workout on their own. So it's asynchronous. So they're doing the workout on their own, and they use their phone and they set up like a little tripod and they video their workouts or their 2 main exercises. And then they send me that through WhatsApp. And I use different softwares where I can analyze the videos to see, what's, are the joints and the angles, in the proper alignment that I'm looking for? Or are they bending their back in the bottom of the squat to get low? Those kinds of things I'm looking for. And I can draw and I can annotate and I can voice over and I can compare week to week and these kinds of things. So it's pretty cool what you can do with technology. I had my own coach online for about 18 months, and my goal was to be able to do body weight pull-ups. And this was during COVID, and we got the pull-up bar, put it in the garage and all the things. I made a lot of gains doing it virtually. I never got the pull-ups though, so it's still on my wish list. And I think if I'd had my coach in person, honestly, like it does take you to that next level. So there's a lot of benefits to an in-person coach, but certainly there's a lot you can do with a virtual coach. Just having kind of like doing it on your own time, and then having that kind of VIP service where you feel like your virtual coach is right there with you while you're doing it. I use things like voice notes and lots of text messages and little videos that I make for clients to educate them and to teach them what I want them to do in a lift, so that week by week we are working on those skills and we're improving those neural pathways.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I remember you saying is, my clients, because they know they have to send me a video, they actually do their workouts.
100%.
And I think that's a really powerful thing. And sometimes even something as simple as, I want to work out on my own. I don't want to go out to a gym. I'm not comfortable in that environment, but I want to do something. Having that accountability partner. Accountability is a success insurance policy. If you can get there live and in person, awesome. However, I think there are options. And even right now, we're in the summer, we're gearing up for fall. However, I find a lot of people, they abandon their routines. They mean to be consistent. They're like, just so much other stuff to do. Got to go on vacation. And it's possible to stay healthy, you might have to change or adapt how you do things. So if you are an in-person trainee, is that the right word? Maybe find someone to do something virtually, or adapt a workout, or get something different put together. And I think that whether it's mindset work, whether it's body work, whether it's work, whether it's personal work, I think everything should continue on. However, how you do it can change. So what are some ways that you can suggest women continue to stay strong, to continue building their health and empowerment while they're on vacation, while they're at the cottage? Maybe you've gone on an international trip and you can't take everything with you. It's great if you can take a couple things on a road trip, but what are some options and things that you've seen work really well for clients so they can do the things physically, but also just sort of fit it into their lives while they're away?
Great question. So I always create travel workouts for my clients, and they're shorter, and they can bring some bands along in their suitcase, or just use their own body weight. And park benches are great for doing sit to stand and push-ups, and even rows and stuff you can set up. So there's so much you can do when you have a plan. So I would say the biggest thing is have a plan. Whether you set a plan for yourself of what you're going to do, what exercises you're going to do, when you're going to do it, have the tools with you because you've planned for it, or have a coach who can give you that plan. Like, the biggest hurdle I find, Larissa, is for folks is that accountability and just not knowing what to do, because physical fitness can be intimidating, especially if you are walking into a gym, or just like try to navigate how you're going to do it at home. It can be intimidating. Not knowing what to do and just not knowing where to start is a huge obstacle we get over when you have a coach who believes in you more than you believe in yourself, until you start to build that self-efficacy and you believe in yourself just as much as they do, and then you're unstoppable.
Oh, beautiful. I love that. And I know that you are so loving and so giving to any of your clients, and you've got like very limited availability. However, you do your best to accommodate people as possible. And I know you also have a great network and resources available. So if someone wants to learn more about either working with you, or they want to connect with you in some fashion, how can they do that? What is the best way for them to do that?
For sure. So I'm mostly on Instagram. You can follow me and direct message me at Beth Yarzab _FitPro. That would be the best way, because I also teach certifications for CanFit Pro. So I know a lot of students who would be amazing coaches. If it's not working with me, it's working with some of the students that I've certified and mentored over the years. And I'm always happy to connect people.
Yeah. So we will make sure to put that. So Beth Yarzab, there's underneath our faces on this video is the correct spelling of her name, _FitPro. So at Beth Yarzab _FitPro on Instagram. And you reach out to her, check out some of the things that she's doing. She's always been so encouraging and so giving and so lovely in the world of health, fitness, and well-being. You're just so amazing and so giving to women, I think, in general, whether it's with your work or just with yourself, with your compliments, with your heart and soul. I think you're a beautiful, beautiful human. So thank you for being in my world.
Thank you. Right back at you, friend.
Thank you. So I hope this has been helpful. But if you guys do have any questions for Beth, put them in the chat. If she doesn't see them, we'll make sure that she does get back to you. But the purpose of us doing this talk really was to give you a wake-up call. If you are over 40 and you've just kind of conveniently ignored this because you've been focused on other things, we want you to prioritize your health, because without health, you have nothing. And you won't be able to enjoy the wealth or the relationships if you can't move in that direction. It doesn't have to be crazy. You do not have to compete. It can start simple. And you could be at any stage or any age. I know both of us have worked with clients that have been very young, right? We both taught parent and talk classes, haven't we?
Yep.
And I think my oldest client that I've ever worked with in the movement industry was 94. And she started working out when she was 91. And people are like, oh, I'm too old to work out. I promise you, this woman transformed. So it's never too late to start. It can be accessible any stage and any age, but it's so important to start prioritizing your health and giving yourself permission to be strong. It's not just about the muscles, it's about the heart, it's about the confidence, it's about you owning yourself. And when you have the muscles, like, okay, little off topic, but I started aerial silks and I used to have a bump, but now maybe you can't see it, but this bump is not squishy like it used to be. Like I'm lifting myself up. And so my bumps, I used to have good toned looking arms, but now they're actually strong bumps. It's great. And so I love this feeling of being strong, but there's nothing better than really feeling strong from the inside out. So I wanted them to have access to you, to your mind, and this message. Is there anything else you'd love to share before we let these ladies fly free?
I just think that you deserve to take care of yourself. You deserve this time. Everybody deserves a coach. No matter what your budget is for coaching, whether it's working with someone like Larissa or with a health coach, fitness coach, like in the realm of fitness, there is nothing that's going to get you faster results than working with a coach in some capacity. So make space for that, make room for that, open your world to the benefits of coaching. And I promise you, you'll never regret it.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Beth, for being here. It has been an absolute pleasure. And if you want to connect with her, go to @Beth Yarzab _FitPro on Instagram. And she is lovely. She does not bite. She is just a warm and loving, kind soul. So I hope this has been helpful. Give us your feedback and let us know if there are any other types of episodes you would love for us to have on these Lunch and Learns. We've been listening to your feedback, and that is why we are bringing people like Beth on to share this valuable information. So bye for now. I'll be back again next week.